I would like to also talk a little bit about a detail in the lower diagonal and the arm. We're going to do it again, and I'll show it to you when I'm in the floor. But the extension of the arm, when you are in the floor in the lower diagonal, will take this form. And I want you to notice that the placement of the upper arm, the skeletal segments of my arm, are in a specific resting upon the floor and in a specific point. If I go a little bit under with it, if I place it in another area of the skeleton, I want you to notice when we practice it in a moment that the shoulder joint will rotate in the socket and it will come in. So finding the angle of placement in the floor of the arms and also on the legs, but in this particular situation the arms, will determine the natural release of the socket and the shoulder inside of its own centering, which then in that case will engage all the muscle formation of the half of my face, my neck, my chest, the scapula, not only from the side of me, but also from the beginning of myself. So I just wanted to show you on the floor so you can, when you explore, you can find it, because it will help you enormously to find release. And release me could be just releasing the neck, because you know the finding of the centering of the shoulder and arm is your engagement of all the muscles of the neck and the directions in which you're sensing the skeletal area of the cervical area of motion. So it's important. So I just want you to notice the placement of the floor in this arm right here. See the angle in which my lower diagonal is? So it is like in this particular placement, in this particular area of the elbow. And you will discover, because you can do this. Like if you rotate it around a little bit, and sometimes we go a little bit like that, and the rotation, I'm exaggerating it now, completely rotated. And sometimes we do this motion when you exercise or practice yoga or things like that. And we use it like a way of thinking, relaxing. But when we do this, we are rotating the socket, the upper arm into the socket, and then we push it into it. So we coming into ourselves. We lose the polarity of natural extension. So this extension, in this extension, I'm resting with my skeleton on the floor, but I'm not extending through my skeleton. To extend through my skeleton, I find the angle in which the skeleton connect me to the elbow, to the wrist, to the hand, to the shoulder, and then the natural bended knees, the bridge, but in this particular situation being here, actually with this leg, right here. The natural extension of the arm, right here, is actually the extension not only of the torso and the neck and head, but also the other side of the bridge. So it's not just only a placement of the arm. So this, what I wanted to begin to understand, the difference between this rotation and the center, and then the extreme. If you go this situation, then you'll over-rotate the shoulder. So remember that you always have extremes to find the placement. But the center of the placement is the release of all the muscles and the release of the energy direction through you. And you are extending through the center of the skeleton. This is a kind of a strange way of saying something, because we are not accustomed to think about extend ourselves through the center of the skeleton. But remember, the skeleton has a form and it has a centralization inside of its own form. So I become cognitive of it, then all the muscles, all the pairs of muscles are naturally connecting to it. Yeah? So the lower diagonal is a connection and finding a placement in the segments of the arms that allows you to interconnect the two sides of your chest. So the upper area of the 7 centers and the lower area through the bridge becomes equal polarized at the center of the pelvic floor, at the center of the solar plexus, at the center of the solar plexus. Okay. It will be nice now to bring the subtlety that we created or expressed in and the placement of the skeletal area of the arm and the floor to the upper diagonal. So when we go in from the moon to the upper diagonal, remember the sphere of the moon it passes through, the periphery passes through the center of your heart, and you always remember the word exuding because it'll help you, because then the moon doesn't become like a formation, but it becomes a way of passing through the skeleton. Exuding means passing through the skeleton and interconnecting all muscles. So now, when I begin to go to the upper diagonal, remember that I said after 2 inches that you start moving, you will notice the neck and the head, and then the palm of your hands start facing up. And I want you to begin to explore the angle in which the skeleton arrived to this area. So it doesn't arrive to that area, it doesn't arrive to that area, that one extreme or the other extreme. Begin to notice what will be the center of that extension, because in the center of that extension you are engaging not only the pectoral but also all the muscles of the thoracic and cervical area of the spine through the arms. Beautiful. So remember that this is facing up, yeah? And then when you're coming back, as you're coming back to the moon again, when you're embracing the sphere and you're coming to the sphere, I want you to begin to notice that you are engaging all this area of your chest. It's not just only that just bringing your arms up. Begin to notice that the directions in which you're moving are engaging you and the whole of you to descend from it. Wonderful. So now, another things that I would like you to pay attention when you go to the upper diagonal is that the first tendency will be, okay, my arms are going to go from this forward direction of the moon, and they're going to go all the way down here. So what I would like to think about is that I'm going to bring my arms from here all the way back there. I want you not to think that way. I want you to think about that there are many, 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 many points in which your arms are adjusting and extending, and all this arc, an enormous arc, to bring you finally to the upper diagonal. So when you are in the upper diagonal, you will almost coming from the sacrum. You see, you're coming from the beginning of the bridge. And that's the reason you're extending through the arc to go to the upper diagonal, and that's the reason you're avoiding just to go back with your arms, because if you just go back with your arms, then you're just pushing forward with the chest and you're losing the connection to your hips. So this is not to make it sound that it's difficult, the motion. It's just to be able to perceive that you're always moving through the center of you, and then you're always passing through and exude through the movement. The placement of the upper diagonal in the beginning, just as well as the lower diagonal, but the upper diagonal especially, is all dependent as well in the beginning of the study on where your shoulders are being sensed from. Because remember, in the free symbols of balance, sometimes the shoulders are a little bit like rotated in, and in the opposite direction the shoulders are going back. So according, if the shoulder girdle is not totally balanced on top of the rib cage and it's a little bit either in or out, it will vary the actual placement of the upper diagonal. So be truthful to your own placement for a while, and go to the place that it feels comfortable for you. And as you practice it, as you interconnect more and more in synchronicity the directions of the skeleton, you will be able to find out much more where the actual placement of the upper diagonal is. So I want to show you a little bit what it would look like in the beginning. So don't think about that you have to really do this because you think that we ask you to do it that way, or because that's the proper way. Begin to discover where you are with it. Respect that, practice inside of it, and that area, the shoulder girdle, eventually will become undone from any inward or backward direction. Because it's not the shoulder girdle only. All the muscles of the shoulder girdle are actually your interrelationship of the limbs and your arms to all the vertebrae of the spine, to all the organs, to your legs. So we are a network, a simultaneous network of directions. So to change the shoulder girdle and to begin to find the arms and the connections to it, it's actually the actual transformation of the entire network system of muscles, ligaments, fascia, skeleton. So you are realigning the whole of you to allow the joints to become free, so each vertebra becomes free inside of the spiral direction. Yeah. So I just wanted to see that if in the beginning, when you are going to the upper diagonal and you practice, and you will notice that maybe the upper diagonal, instead of being like in this V that I'm doing right now, they may want it to go this big right now, which is okay. But right now, you see the V will be here, and the opening like right here, and right now I'm here. This is what is comfortable for me. So it's okay. You can be here for a while, be in the overextension, over opening, and you will notice that you're opening a lot of the pectoral muscles in this connection. But once you become more clear into the other connection, you will not only opening the pectoral, but you will be opening the scapula as well, all of it. Because remember, upper diagonal is the engagement of all the directions of your skeleton. The connections of unity and motion are exact in that sense. So you may go here, but what is important, try as much as possible not to go here, because that will be a diamond. See, that will be a diamond. This will be the arc. This is the arc of upper diagonal. If you go to an arc and the diamond, it's all right, okay, but what happens is that you're missing the connection to the neck. So it begin to discover what the arc is. But if you're here comfortable for a while too, be comfortable for a while, then eventually you say, okay, the back of my neck doesn't feel too good here. There's an area of my neck that I'm not connected. So then remember that if that's so, it's because you are in a diamond and you are not in an arc. So find the arc, and that will give you the distance and the opening of the neck and the connection to the cervical area of the spine. Yeah? So just explore and begin to know that your body and the movements will show you eventually the directions, and the directions will unwind within yourself, and it will bring you into the actual placement, because that is the relationship of the whole skeleton.